I want everyone to leave with the ability to find a listing presentation on, or the template for it, which is on Command. You log into Command, you go to the far left side, Designs, at what they call Applet, and then you click the Designs Applet, and then I believe the next thing you do is press Print. Is that right? Oh yeah, you have to put in the lower right hand corner. There's a little plus button. Sure. While you're pulling that up, thank you very much for that. This is Tara Tillman, everybody. Tara is coming from another real estate company. She's been with us for a couple of weeks, and she's a veteran of the real estate space. Sorry, I'm following the picture here. That's Tara. And she's going to hang out with us today, and hear what we're going to talk about. Okay, let me walk you through so everyone make her feel at home. All right. Hi, Ebony, Heather, Michael, John, myself. And we got 3 or 4 people on there too.
Hey, Tara.
Tara, welcome.
All right. Okay, so the first thing I want to make sure that you understand is there is no like listing presentation per se in terms of like, you got to do it this way. This is the way Keller Williams does it or something like that. Okay. I think that the idea of a presentation in general is probably the wrong word. Okay. That really the right word should be consultation, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a needs analysis. This is not really an opportunity for you to blab about all of your qualifications and expect them to, you know, pull out their pen and sign paperwork. This is about asking them how they want to be served and what they think about this process, helping educate them on what to expect and how to be successful, and then guiding them through the process. And that'll include a lot of education, a lot of hand-holding. It could also include a little blend of some marriage counseling, some financial advice. Maybe I should call an attorney on this, to late nights and early mornings of people that are, quite frankly, in one of the most stressful moments of their life. Okay, so we just have to understand kind of where we're coming from, or where we're meeting these people. We have to meet them where they're at. Okay, so if you don't like what you hear today, you don't have to say it. If you like a little piece, say it. If you don't like a little piece, don't say it. It doesn't make a difference to me. I want you to be comfortable with how you go into these meetings. But I do want you to be super well practiced, meaning go ahead and figure out what you want it to be, and that is your listing presentation. So just like if, for example, you are an actor and you're the actor in the show or whatever, they're going to give you a script, and the script is going to basically be the entire experience choreographed. And it even you ever watched like a show on with the closed captioning, and it'll say something like, you know, the leaves, you know, blowing in the wind. Like it'll tell you like, oh, phone rings from the other room, like that kind of stuff. Like the people who wrote the script have got it all figured out. So they know like where the people are on the stage. They know what comes first, what goes next. And I'm going to encourage you to essentially choreograph your presentation. So you know every step of the way, and you've done it so many times, like you could literally do it in your sleep. Like I could poke you at 3 in the morning and you pop out of bed and you're like, hey, you know, thank you so much for letting me come. It's 3 o'clock. I got a 3 o'clock appointment, blah, 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 right? And you've got it figured out where you don't let the prospect take you out of your rhythm. So we want to, you know, for example, when do we look at the house, right? Do we do it with the person or without the person? Where do we sit? Why do we sit there? These are all things that you want to take some consideration to. At the end of the day, we know that sellers are a more efficient way of running this business as opposed to buyers. And you're never going to get a paycheck unless you get a contract, right? There's never been a closing in the history of the world without first having an appointment, okay? And there's never been an appointment in the history of the world without having a conversation about getting an appointment, okay? So seller listings is the name of the game. So if you don't have that figured out by now, are you still, Mary, are you still the co-host?
Yep, I'm
Oh,
still
no,
here. I'm looking and I don't see anybody asking to come in.
Oh, you came back in and I had just had to reset
Yeah.
it. So you're good
Yeah.
for now. Just keep looking.
Okay.
We want to make sure that you've got this thing figured out. So, no notice you can go out to a listing appointment, feel good about it. Makes sense? Okay, let's take a look at what we got in Command real fast. So I'm going to show everything, but if you log into Command, and on the left-hand side, there's going to be an applet called Designs. That's where you can make JPEGs, you can make social media, images, you can make flyers, brochures, open house flyers, all that kind of stuff. You also, when you click on that, there's a button in the lower right-hand corner with a plus sign. You click that. Okay, remember this is recorded so you guys can watch it later. The next thing that pops up is a box and you hit print, right? Okay, once you hit print, the wheel turns for a second, and then on the left-hand side is a series of templates that you can access, okay? And I believe one of which is called Yep, so it says listings, and then right below listings, it has listing presentation, and then a bunch of like just listed, designs and graphics and that kind of stuff. So you can manipulate those and drag in pictures and tweak it to your own specific brand, okay? And then below that, it has buyer, and there's a buyer presentation as well. Again, you don't have to use all of that stuff. And there's slides in there. Like it's a little tricky because it's kind of a combination of the pre-listing package and the listing presentation, some of which is kind of collateral that the buyer or the seller might want to see, and some of which isn't. So I'd really encourage you to work through that and try to determine what are we bringing that we're ultimately going to leave with the seller, and what are we going to include in our pre-listing package, which means we're probably not going to talk about it a whole lot during the listing presentation. So you see all the tools, and you can kind of go from there on how you want to approach it. Okay. There are also plenty of other listing presentation scripts, and there's a bunch of stuff within the Google Drive so that you can study some of the scripts that you're going to hear momentarily. Sound good? Okay. Now, remember when we did the pre-list package? We did it a couple of weeks ago in the group, and when was it? A couple of days ago, we did a session on qualifying the seller. It was yesterday, right? Qualifying the seller. So that's asking essentially the seller pre-qualification questions. And one of the things that we're doing there is getting the answers to the questions. And then at the end of that discussion, we are saying, hey, here is I'm going to send you a pre-list package, right? Or you could courier it. You could have an Uber drop it off. You can drop it off yourself. You can email it. You can do a lot of different stuff to get it into their hands. We can go through I don't want to go through that today, but the pre-listing package is going to have things like some detail about your marketing plan. It's going to have some disclosures. It's going to have a little bio of you, some testimonials, right? Maybe some market stats so they understand what they control and what they don't control, pricing, condition, that kind of stuff. You might have a flyer on, how to sell your home safe in times of COVID. It might have a flyer on the importance of staging. It could, like, some of these little things that are going to give them the confidence. Number one, first of all, no one else is sending a pre-listing package. 99 times out of 100, if you're competing with another agent, which by the way, about 30% of the time you will be, meaning 70% of the time, you will not be competing with anyone. You just have to not completely butcher the appointment and you will get it, okay? But in the off chance that you are competing with somebody, I would venture to say that 99% of the time, they're not going to be doing any kind of pre-listing package. And they're going to go into the appointment and they're going to rattle off every little thing that they do. And it's going to take freaking 3 hours. And the seller, starting at about hour 2, is going to be like, how do I get this person out of my house? Right? So do we want to be that person? No. We want to send them something ahead of time, which shows them how professional you are, how organized you are, and how everything is buttoned up. Okay. And then once you get to the listing presentation, there'll be I'll show you guys in a second where you bring it up and where you ask if they have any questions or follow up on that stuff. Okay. One of the questions, remember, we heard yesterday from the pre-list was, or from the seller pre-qualification questions was, and just so you know, our appointment will take about 30 minutes. Will that be okay? Now, you don't have to say 30 minutes, but, I would say somewhere like maybe 30 to 45 minutes, something like that. What you want to make sure happens is that they know how long to expect you. It also gives you permission to be brief, or to not necessarily brief, but not to like blabber on for hours and hours. Okay. There will be a time when you guys have big successful teams and you're running, 10, 15, 20 listings at all times. You're not going to go on one listing appointment a month. You're probably going to go on 3 or 4 a day. Right. Now imagine you're going on 3 or 4 listing appointments a day. Somebody's like not cooperative or not polite, or their house is not in the area that you feel comfortable with. That I intentionally meant that to be vague, right? You don't have to take it. Does it make sense? Okay. Just as a sidebar, when we sit and we look a client face, it is our ethics on the line on whether we should take that piece of business. What I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. I've never been to Snellville in my entire life, with the exception of living elsewhere for about 6 years. I've lived in Metro Atlanta my entire life. I've never been to Snellville a single time. Okay. If somebody calls me and says, hey, I want your help selling a home in Snellville, I just don't think I'm the right person. Yes, I'd love to cash that check. Yes, I know how to handle a real estate sale, but I just don't think that I'm the right person for that. And I would have a hard time looking a seller in the face and saying, hey, I'm the right person. See what I'm saying? And so there's a lot of integrity on the line here and a lot of ethics on the line here. So before you drive all over the city or even further, you have to ask yourself, am I the most appropriate person for this? Right? Now, believe me, I have a person in Snellville. Guess what? They don't like coming over here either. Okay? So we trade some business here and there. Okay? Because every year I usually end up with 1 or 2 things in Snellville. I give them to her. She sends me the stuff over here. Right? Because she didn't want to come over here and I don't want to go over there. Make sense? So remember that I probably say this to you guys once a day, I feel like, but it's that important. A lot of people end up holding on to clients that aren't that good because they don't have that many prospects. And they don't have enough prospects because they have done a lack of prospecting. Makes sense? You got one person, boy, you're gonna hold on tight to that person. It don't matter. You wanna look at homes in Veronica and Hampton and Douglasville and Beaufort. Just tell me what time to show up. And then they'll be late and they won't talk to the lender and they'll tell you all kinds of bigoted stuff. And you're like, okay, whatever, this is my guy. But if you got 50 clients, you don't put up with any of that. Make sense? You mean like, give me an example of.
If their goals or who it is that they are as a person is not in line with who it is that you are. And it's not the.
I just don't think I'm going to be a good fit for you. Have you ever gone on a date with somebody and didn't want to marry them? Same question, same response. I'd rather let you know now that I just don't think we're going to be a great match, compatible. And if you'd like me to connect you with another colleague of mine, I'd be more than happy to. And I wish you all the best. You're not rude about it. But if it's something like you're out of the area, say, I don't know anything about Valdosta real estate, sir. So it wouldn't make sense for me to help you. Right? You need an expert in Valdosta. Let me help you find one. Or, Augusta or something. Or have an opportunity in Augusta or something. Right. That was right. That was insightful. I think that's all good stuff. That's a really good clip. There you go. That's your first test. That's your first test. The GPS, it's like you're on 400 North to Delana, or what did it say? Dahlonega. Yeah. If you say Dahlonega, probably a good thing to refer the business elsewhere. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so any thoughts or questions on any of that? Okay, perfect. So I want to make sure that this is, you can hang out, Victoria. What? Okay, well, you can come in if you want. Okay, so I want to make sure that you guys practice this, that you rehearse it, really think it through. Because I'll tell you, if you can become a successful, high energy, super organized listing agent, oh man, this business will get fun. I mean, you are literally going from appointment to appointment, and picture this. You have a 30-minute meeting with seller A, they sign the paperwork. You swing by the office, you drop it on your assistant's table. Thank you, Paul, get it all set up for me. I'm not saying be rude, but like the assistant knows how it works, right? The person gets the stack, they call the photographer, they organize this, they organize that, they send out disclosure, boom, 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 boom. And the assistant hands you the paperwork for appointment 2. You have a 30-minute meeting with appointment 2, paperwork signed, you come back to the office, hey, this one goes in on Thursday, you don't have to worry about it today. She hands you the thing and says, hey, this one's in Delonica. Cool. And you're just off. And you're doing the things that you love doing, interacting belly to belly with buyers and sellers, and the administrative stuff is done by somebody different. Right. Yeah.
And I think what we need to realize too, it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, if we're doing only 1%, if we're doing what only 1% of agents do, it doesn't have to be perfect. I think so. So not everything has to be perfectly dotted, it's perfectly said. I think our enthusiasm, what we're doing, how we're presenting ourselves. I think, so that
I would say don't wait until you're perfect to go out on the.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, think about it this way. Like, if I'm a major league hitter, I'm gonna only get on base, like Hall of Fame major league hitter. I'm only gonna get on base 3 times out of 10. Okay, so you're gonna fail 70% of the time, and we're gonna stick you in the Hall of Fame, and we're gonna pay you $40 million a year. Right. So all we're doing, yes, we should not be failing 70% of the time. I would say once you get good and a little confident, you should be somewhere in the 2/3 to 75% of the appointments you go on, you should take. Okay. We're about to start a listing presentation if you want to hang out. It's Victoria. Okay. Okay. Any questions thus far? All right. Beautiful.
Why is she choosing to do
What I would love to do is just to give you an example of how it might run. Okay. Now, a lot of the concepts that we have learned, things like we talked about this morning, helping a seller think about the process through the eyes of a buyer. Right. When we look at some of the comparables, we'll go into that analysis. Okay. You'll notice that there's a lot of phraseology around us, we, together, right? These kind of words, because we're building rapport. Okay. If you need to find that balance of staying in control and having the other person share with you what they need to share, right? But as you ask questions, you're leading the conversation where you want it to go. Okay. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. All right, let's just do
We can
a
hear
little.
you, but we can't hear the,
Can you guys hear me okay over here?
not very well. And Bill, can you say it again?
Could you hear us now, or what were you about to say?
I was going to say, if somebody has a question, would you mind repeating it because we can't hear it very well?
Yes. Yeah,
Thanks.
this stops. Hi, Lee. Say hi to everyone. Oh, can I, while Lee's standing here, first of all, let's all give Lee an applause. She's awesome. Okay, and secondly, before you get in a panic about not knowing how to do DocuSign stuff when a seller or buyer is breathing down your neck, let's learn how to manage DocuSign and contracts and adding signature blocks and all that kind of stuff before you have that stress. Okay. So just pretend like you have an offer that you got to submit. If you're not familiar with DocuSign or don't have it all linked up, let's figure out now that you've got some questions rather than Saturday night when people might not be quite as quick to get back to you. All right. All right. Lee, do you have any mess? You got about 15 people that, do you have anything you want to say to them?
No, just, I guess, people have questions about when to submit things to the market center, and how to do that. So when you go binding with something, after you're through due diligence and you feel like the transaction's gonna go, that's when we like it to be submitted to the market center so that all the documents can get reviewed for compliance. And if you want to do a pay at close, we have time to do all that stuff. So the way that you do that in Command is not on the documents page, though, it's on the commission page. When you do that commission page, that's what triggers us and tells us that you have a deal. So if you go binding and you get to that point and you don't know what I'm talking about or you don't remember, please call or email me and I'm happy to walk you through it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sorry, I'll try not to print.
All right, every morning at 8:30, we'll take a tip from you, Lee. Just hop into the Zoom, okay? Okay, can you guys hear us now?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but just maintain that volume.
All right, we'll do our best. Just Donna, wave your hand or something, and Michael will be watching to make sure that we talk with the appropriate volume, okay?
Okay, we can see you, but we can't see John.
That may not be a bad thing. That may not be a bad thing.
Well, we're trying to keep our socially distanced. This is going to be on YouTube forever. I don't want to be responsible for any mishaps. Oh, you guys are getting close.
That's perfect.
Okay. All right. You guys ready? All right. So John is my seller. And let's set the stage real fast. John and I have confirmed the appointment. Okay. I've asked John a series of questions that basically follow the pre-listing, or I'm sorry, the seller pre-qualification questions. And I have done some preliminary research, obviously. And what I've brought with me, by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with bringing like some papers to remind you of what you want to say. Okay. Don't think that you have to memorize this thing. Okay. You're going to, hey, listen, if they say, you know, well, you're bringing papers, say, look, this is a big deal. Okay. There's some really, really important questions that I need to ask you, and I don't want to forget a single one. Okay. That's why I'm here, and I'm recording all my notes because, you know, if you're at a restaurant and you give your order to the server and they don't write it down, and you're like, oh, no cheese and sub baked potato or whatever, you're like, they're gonna screw this up, right? Does that make you feel like a little uneasy? Okay, so write it down. Okay, it's okay to write it down. Okay. All right, so I kind of know about John. And we're going to review all that stuff here in a second. So I'm going to show up at John's door, and I'm going to open up the door. One more thing before we go there. Guys, a lot of people, I'm not trying to get controversial here. I'm just telling you what I see. I would say there's basically three groups of people in our world right now. There are people that are so freaked out about COVID that they won't leave their bedroom. Okay. And they are not going to meet you in person no matter what. So, and those people might need to be served, and they might expect you to serve them, which means you need to have all the appropriate tools figured out to serve them. So if you don't have a Zoom account and you don't know how to share your screen and these other kind of things, you're going to kind of look a little unprepared. Okay. The other group of people seems to be like most of us, that we are taking precautions, but we're not, you know, scared to death to be out in the world, and we're being, you know, responsible and safe. Yet those people still have some concerns, right? So you might want to address how you're going to have showings take place and these kind of things in light of open houses, in light of, you know, people, you know, having this virus, right? And the third group of people are the people that think it's all a hoax, right? And I'm not commenting on whether that's right or wrong. I'm just suggesting that if you or your clients want something done a certain way, and, you know, for whoever's safety, and you're getting pushback, don't back down. don't take your mask off because somebody says, why are you wearing that stupid thing or something like that. You just got to do your thing. Okay. Make sense? Don't like put yourself in a situation that you're not comfortable in simply because you're trying to get somebody's business. Fair? All right. All right. So I'm going to show up at John's door and I'll knock on the door. Boom, boom, boom. All right.
Bill?
Mr. Presti Giacomo.
Yes.
Boy, you put me on the spot on that.
Call me John, please. Save us.
All right,
Save us all a
John,
lot of time.
it is 1 o'clock and we had a 1 o'clock meeting. Would it be okay if I come in?
Oh, please, please.
Beautiful,
Have a seat.
beautiful.
Make yourself comfortable.
Excellent. So what I'd like to do is just take a real quick, so basically I'm still standing and I'm going to ask John if I could just take a quick look around the house. Okay. Would it be okay if I take a real quick look around the house?
Sure. Would you mind if I come along with you?
You know, what I prefer to do is just take a look through the eyes of the buyer. And I'm going to jot down some notes, and I'm sure there'll be some questions that you can help me answer shortly. And when we decide to work together, then you can take me around the house at the end and point out a couple of your favorite things that you want me to make sure I'm including in the marketing. If
Not
that's
at all.
okay.
We'll be here. You take your time.
All right, so I'm going to walk around the home, I'm going to take my notes. If I'm feeling pretty good about it, I might even do take my dual entry form, right? Because that's the form that you're going to have to, you know, where is the washer and dryer? Is the, you know, water heater, gas or electric? Where's the attic stairs? I can't even tell you how many times I came home from a meeting and I'm like, damn, were there landscape lights? Or gosh, were there sidewalks? Were there lights in the neighborhood? You know, these kind of things. Like,
Why would
was the
you
washer and dryer hookup gas or electric? There's no reason not to.
Okay.
It just prompts you to. The only reason why I would maybe not is just because it's time
It's
consuming.
tedious to, okay, more time, okay.
So I might just sketch out like some stuff and check some of the stuff that I'm more likely to forget.
Okay.
And then when appropriate, I might, you know, once I got the business, then I might go in and fill it in.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need to take an hour and a half walking through the house looking at everything if she's going to fire me anyway. Make sense? Okay, so now we've sat back down and we're sitting at the table. So John, thank you for having me over. You know, I have a great deal of respect for the investment of your time today. And there are a lot of many real estate agents that you could be meeting with. And I just wanted to first share my gratitude for the opportunity.
Came very highly recommended. I spoke to Aubrey a few weeks ago. He recommended you, and yeah, no, my pleasure.
Beautiful. You ready to get started?
Absolutely.
Oh, that was the shortest listing agreement ever, or listing presentation. Right. So if they're by this time, remember they've already seen your pre-listing package. Okay. So if he comes out and I've already asked that question, hey, if you feel comfortable with what we talked about, then would you be prepared to sign to list with me tonight? So he comes in and he's all smiles and he's like, you know, got me the cookies and the coffee and he's all smiles. I might just cut right to the chase and say, you know, is there anything that you want to discuss before we get started?
I don't know if I'm quite at that point yet.
I know you're not. I know you're that would be a quick class, but I'm just saying if you get the
Not quite that level.
if you get the
vibe.
vibe that it may be okay. You say, hey, is there anything you want to discuss before we get started? Right? Any questions that you have before we get started? But he comes out of the gate, hey, you're so well, you know, welcome in. Thank you for your time. I loved your pre-listing package. Gosh, the thing you do with video is so cool. Great. You ready to get started? You might get a little chuckle. It's okay. You know, where he says, hey, easy, easy. Okay. You know, you do want to close her, right? I just double checking. Right? They are trying to hire an assertive person. Don't forget that. Okay, they don't want a little pushover. They want somebody who's going to defend their equity and defend their safety and defend their security and write a contract that protects them. They don't want to push over. And so if they get this vibe with you, like, boy, you're kind of assertive. So you're looking for an assertive agent, are you not? And they're like, oh yeah. All right, let's continue. Makes sense. So John, in fact, I only have 3 goals for our meeting tonight.
Okay.
Number 1, we're going to review your motivation to sell, and we're going to agree on a price that will cause it to sell. We're going to take a moment and I'll answer any questions that you have.
Okay.
And number 3, we're going to decide tonight whether you want to work with me, and I will decide if I want to take your listing. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay. Now, a lot of this includes some stuff on personality assessments. So somebody might say, what do you mean you might not take the listing? Right? Why would you not take the listing? So John, we'll get to know each other a little bit more here in a second. But if you will not price the home at a price that I know you need to price it at to be successful, that could be a reason why I choose not to take the listing.
Okay.
Another reason why I might choose not to take the listing is if you want me to pay for marketing that I know will not help.
Okay.
Then I might consider, hey, I want you to put an ad in the AJC. If you ever try to put an ad in the AJC, it's expensive as can be. And who reads the paper?
Yeah.
Right? So there may be marketing that you expect me to pay for that I know is not going to help. That could be a reason why I might not take the listing. Now, if I'm coming in saying, well, I might not take the listing, who's in control now? Right. So I've already set the stage as if I'm the one that's going to decide where this thing goes, not you. You know how when I talk about when I'm running the numbers with you guys and I say, you'll go on this number of appointments and you will choose to take X number of listings. That I say it that way for a reason. I say you will take that number of listings because you're the one that gets to dictate whether you take the listing or not. Right. Now, they may not give me the opportunity to choose, but I'm going to ultimately choose. Right. Okay. So I have 3 critical questions for you, John. Number 1, do you really want to sell your house?
Yes, we do. I've spoken about it with my wife Eileen for a while. Yes, for some time, and yes, we do. We are ready.
Okay. And are you willing to price your home to sell, or do you want to have it sit on the market?
Well, obviously, price it to sell. Obviously.
Well, as you can see, about a third of our listings out there, it's closer to like 27% now are not selling. So they're certainly they expire.
Gosh, the market seems so strong. Why would that be? Why would that be the case?
Oftentimes it's because a homeowner overprices the home.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure that you're going to be realistic on price.
Oh yeah. Oh
Right,
yeah.
perfect. So we'll go into some more detail on that here shortly.
Sure.
And thirdly, do you want me to sell it for you?
Maybe we need to talk about that a little bit more.
Great. So he might say, yeah, I'm ready. Okay, bust out the paperwork. Don't feel like you got to sit there for 3 hours and chat if they're ready to sign paperwork. Okay, don't talk yourself out of the sale. Make sense? Okay. So John, let's just pretend for a second you're the only one. Okay. Obviously, we want to make sure that all the decision makers are present,
Right.
and we want to have confirmed that prior to coming into the meeting at this particular time. Okay. So John, as I mentioned yesterday, I had my assistant drop off the pre-listing package,
Yes. That's right.
which kind of goes through some disclosures and some of our marketing efforts and some of our brand and our reputation, some of the statistics. Did you have any questions or concerns about what you saw?
I'd just like to go a little more into about the ways that you'd be marketing it, and really the price, Bill. That's the most. I just want to really get your idea about what you feel the home is worth.
Okay, perfect. So the marketing plan is you have some questions about, or something you want to hear a little bit more about?
Yeah, I'd like to know. Yeah, I'd like to know. I know there's so many different ways that you can, can do it, and just sort of see what you feel the best way to market my home would be.
Perfect. So meanwhile, the pre-listing package should be pretty thorough on that. So is there anything in specific that you were expecting to see that you didn't see, or anything in particular that you would like to do that you want to make sure that I do include?
Just about how your office works, how you work with your team in your office, and what.
Okay, perfect. So we will go through that, and certainly the price is important.
Yeah.
So we'll go through the details of the price too.
I don't want to price it so high so it scares people off, but I just don't want to price it so low that I feel that I've kind of got gypped a little bit. So that's up to you.
Perfect. So we'll certainly talk about price as well. So John, I want to make sure that my team and I serve you as best as possible. You can hang out if you want. We're probably gonna be doing this for another like 35, 40 minutes or so. Okay, so John, I'd like for you to take a second and visualize your dream scenario of selling this house. Okay.
Okay.
So what is the one thing that has to happen in your home selling experience for it to make that dream scenario a reality?
As little involvement by me as possible. I'd like to really have my agent handle a lot of that. I want somebody like really to be as transparent as possible. I need to be praised of the process, but like to be sort of, kind of out of the picture as I can be. I'm
Yeah, I
worried
mean,
about
you're-
the moving. I'm moving to Houston in a few months. The job is taking me there, and that's really what I need to focus on, building out that division in Houston, and that's really on my mind. So I really need to know that I have an agent who really is handling a lot of the nitty-gritty, a lot of the granular stuff for me.
Okay, perfect. So let me echo back some of the things I just heard. So you're a busy guy. You've got a huge task and project ahead of you building out that department in Houston, and that's going to be taking a lot of your time. So what you're really looking for is a partner that is going to take the stress away, allow you to have little to no involvement, and somebody that's going to keep you abreast of the high points and make sure that you're represented properly, but that you don't have to babysit. Is that did I
Absolutely
understand that?
correct? Absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay, perfect. And other than the fact that you're a busy guy and you got a lot on your plate, is there anything in particular that additionally you'd like to share about your desires about making it a dream scenario?
For me, I'm just big on communication. I just really like to know every step of the process. If things are going right or wrong, I want to know. I need your expertise on this, and I just need you to kind of be in good communication with me.
Okay, perfect. So one of the things that my team and I pride ourselves on, we're very highly systematized. And that means that we're oftentimes, first of all, we've done this a lot of times, clearly. And so we often can see problems that could happen and that may happen before they happen. And that way you won't even have to know that we're tackling things behind the scenes, and it won't take your energy away from your project in Houston.
That's perfect. I appreciate you spelling that out.
Okay, now you mentioned communication is really important to you. You said a lot of communication or really good communication. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that means to you?
I don't mind a lot of communication, and I certainly, if you have something to say or on the side of caution, let me know. I will let you know if you're telling me too much or we're talking too much. But anything you have to say, anything at what point, I need to know right away.
Yeah, so certainly when it's decision-making time, is there a preferred method of communication you have?
Text is fine.
Okay,
Text is fine. I'm looking at constantly. I'll usually reply within a half hour, an hour. So
yeah, text is good.
Yep.
And generally for my sellers, I'm calling them on Friday afternoons
okay.
and giving them a weekly update on showings and interests and feedback and that kind of thing. Would that be frequently enough?
More often, maybe 3 times a week, 3 times a week.
Sure. What would be perfect for you?
3 times a week.
Any particular day?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, maybe.
Monday, Wednesday,
Not
Friday.
specifically, but I guess as events occur, but normally about 3 times a week, I like to know.
Okay, so 3 times a week is what you want. Perfect. My team can certainly handle that.
But of course, anything comes up, you'll let me know. You'll let me know right away if anything comes up.
Of course.
Of course. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you haven't noticed, if you had just walked in, you would think that we're already under contract. Meaning you would think that he has already agreed to work with me. That's the tone that I'm using, right? A lot of like we and us and how can I serve you and all that. He hasn't even agreed to hire me yet that's the way I'm talking. It makes sense. It's a bit assumptive. It's not in your face assumptive, but there's a lot of assumptions going on. Okay. Now, so John, I had the opportunity to speak with you yesterday and ask you a couple questions to better prepare myself for tonight. And may I just take a moment to review those questions now to make certain that I completely understand your circumstances?
And my own, but of course, go right ahead.
Perfect. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. So, John, you mentioned that you're going to be moving to Houston. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you mentioned that you were hoping to be there by April 1st. Did I understand that correctly?
Exactly. Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And tell me a little bit more about what's significant about April 1st for you.
Well, they want me to have the division rolled out by May 31st. So I need to be on site probably about a month or two ahead of time.
Okay.
And so could probably push that maybe into May, but I really do want to get out there by April 1st.
Okay, well, with this big new responsibility, you want to make sure that all your energies and your focus is there.
Exactly.
And so you'll allow us to help you take care of the hassles here.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right, perfect. Is there anything else that from our talk yesterday or so far today, anything else that you want to share that would help me understand how to provide a phenomenal experience for you?
Not really, no. The big questions that I have are about your next steps, how you would market the home, your first steps in marketing the home, what the first few things that you would do and you and your team would do. You were up looking around for about 15, 20 minutes. I'm really interested about hearing how you feel about the home. There's certain things I know may need upgrading, so I'd like to go over that with you, get your thoughts on that. Nothing offhand as far as what I need to make it perfect.
Okay, so there's some questions here that based on the way he's talking, I'm probably going to skip. Like so you're in Houston by May and you've started your new job, right? Ultimately, what will all that do for you? And I'm going to get him to express a little bit of emotion, right? Honestly, don't you deserve that? Don't you deserve all of that? Even more so, So John, what if the home doesn't sell?
That's what I'm worried about. And that's what I know the market's so strong. I don't think that's going to happen. But if it doesn't sell, then we have some decisions to make.
So would that mean like you don't take the job or
No,
you
I need
rent
to take the
it?
job.
Or...
I need to be there. I probably need to fly back and forth. I'll be renting out in Houston for a few months.
Okay.
So I don't need to buy right away. But I really would like to be done with this and have Eileen and the kids in Houston well before May 1st.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's the level of commitment that you have to sell this home?
Oh, 10 plus.
Okay. So John, my goal is for us to make that happen. Okay. For you and for your family. And if you're as committed as I am to getting this home sold, we're going to have you in Houston by April 1st. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
All right. So great. I appreciate you being serious about getting this home sold. So let's take a look at what's happening in the marketplace today.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm going to bring out the comparables. Okay.
And
Now,
I've noticed that there's some houses in my side. I noticed, the one right across the street, a couple of houses up, that sold within about 2 weeks. Not even 2 weeks.
yeah, that's
Not
one of
even
the
2
ones
weeks.
that I
Yeah,
brought.
yeah.
So one of the things that I would probably end up doing is bringing maybe an iPad or a laptop or something, or having sent him a link ahead of time where we could look at some of these pictures together. Okay. What I want him to do is think about this for a second. Every when a buyer is considering buying a home, what's happening is they are looking at that home on a list of other homes that are similar in price, similar in area, similar in size and age and these kind of things. And the first showing is online. So if they don't like the photos, the next place they're looking is the price. And if the price doesn't make them jump out of bed, they're not going to come and look at it. Okay. So the combination of the price and the pictures, or really the pictures and the price, has got to be spot on. That's the way that they're going to set an appointment to come and see the property. Okay. So you need to be speaking to the seller in terms of having them understand where that home is going to have to be positioned on that list in order for it to stand out from the competition. Okay. Yeah.
So when we said when we're doing the comps, is the cloud CMA, like once we send them the listing package, and then can we do it, would that suffice as our comps if we just kind of email that to them, or should it be something a little bit more intricate?
I think that's good from a foundational point, but I would probably color print out the photos, so you can go in and say like, okay, see how this one, they fenced in the yard, or they had screened in the porch, or they, have new countertops, or, oh gosh, look, they just replaced all their cabinetry, right? Or, hey, they switched out all of their light fixtures and fans and that kind of stuff, right? So you can actually see it. So let's talk briefly about the comps. What I would recommend is you want to have at least 3 active listings, 3 to 5 active listings, okay? 3 to 5 pending listings, and 3 to 5 sold listings, okay? That way, you may not go over every single one of them, but by the way, you always want to ask them, have you ever seen this house before? Because that could be the house of like their poker buddies. And you start talking about it like you know everything, and they're the ones that have hung out there more than even you have. You see what I'm saying? So you may want to say, are you familiar with this house? Oh, that's Jane and Steve's up the road. Yeah, we go up over there for, watch the football game every once in a while. Oh, great. Okay. You don't start talking like you know everything, because they probably know you about, not necessarily, just say, hey, what did you think? It looks like they sold their home for $345 in 9 days. Did that surprise you? Right? Don't tell them what they need to hear. Ask them the question that's going to allow them to tell you what they need to hear. Does that make sense? Now, in the comps, there should be, you want to aim to have something that's very similar to what they have. Ideally, something that is a little bit more impressive, and ideally something that's a little less impressive. You don't have to be, hey, now, Mr. and Mrs., hey, John, this is the one that's better than your home. You don't need to do that, right? But you want to make sure that, you want to find something that creates a bracket of price. Hey, the homes that are a little bit more updated and have that, basement, they sell for $375. The ones that have the, we're on a little less acreage and don't have a basement, and the layout in the kitchen are $350. You're kind of in between, something like that. So you want to help them understand the comps, what's happening a little bit beyond their number, a little bit less than their number, so you can kind of bracket it in. Now, my biggest aha is this takes more than an hour, so we're probably going to have to be a little brief as we finish. But what I want to make sure we take away is the analysis of the comps. Okay, and now based on all of these comparable houses, this one priced at $350, this one priced at $365, this one priced at $340. Where do you feel like you should price your home so it's positioned on the market to outperform any of these properties? Now, hey, and before you answer that question, this is basically it's pushing you to show them the actives more so than going through like a ton of analysis on the pendings and the sales. Okay, so you can kind of play that a little bit by ear. If you're really working with somebody who's like super highly analytical and they want to see everything, right, then you might have to go into a little bit more detail. But you got to make sure that you're within reason of the actives, because ultimately when a buyer comes to see the neighborhood, they're going to look at all these homes and they're going to pick the one with the best features and benefits for the price, right? So if you're not the winner, your listing is going to help sell the other guy's home.
And aren't sellers more predisposed to that? I mean, their house is, of course, best, their house. So you need to kind of take that, and you need to have a reaction for that, because, yeah, you saw Bill across the street. I mean, my house is so much bigger than that house, so I feel it's so much more. So how do you overcome that?
Well,
or you need to expect that's coming.
Surprisingly, you'll get that less than you expect to.
Really?
However, you just got to go back to the facts, right? So let me just make sure that I have all the correct information. I'm looking at it. It says this one is a 5-bedroom home. You have a 4-bedroom home. So I don't know if you knew, but they put all new hardwoods throughout their main, right? Or they built that all that hardscaping in the backyard, or they have brand new paint, brand new appliances, and all these kind of things. So at the end of the day, their home is going to compete with the others. So in some respects, it doesn't even really matter what that home sold for, because it's not competing with that home anyway. It's competing against what's active on the market now. And then you look at the pendings, and those are the winners, right? So those were active a week ago, let's say, but the buyers chose those. So if you want to win, you need to be just as good as those. You know what I'm saying? And just as good means condition, price. Okay, condition and price. So we've kind of gone through that. And I would probably include a, if we're getting a little bit, if we're having a hard time on pricing, I may include something to the effect of NAR, National Association of Realtors, it says that 2 weeks on the market with no showings or 10 showings and no offers, it means the home is overpriced. Okay. So if we, I know you're back and forth to Houston and all that, but if 2 weeks go by and we don't have a showing, first of all, that would shock me. But if it happened, that means we're overpriced.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fair.
And if
That's
we have
fair.
10 showings and there's no offer, that also leads us to believe that we're overpriced. Does that make sense?
Trust you, sure.
Great.
Sure.
So now we have our 11th showing and we ain't got an offer. It's time to reduce the price. We've already kind of pre-baked that into our analysis. Okay. 1 second. So you've answered the question about where you want to price the home, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we agree on the price. And the next thing I would say is, so John, are you ready to get started? Okay, so I didn't end up having to answer any of his
Now,
marketing
I'm
questions.
gonna probably have a question. I'm gonna probably, well, you look at the house, what what you say, you think I need to do anything? What do you think I need to do?
Yeah, so
So you noticed upstairs, you noticed that the carpet's pretty threadbare upstairs and there, along
yeah,
that.
so I can
Do
have
you
a carpet
think- Do
company.
you think that'll help the market? You think that'll help you get more money? And I don't know if you
so-
noticed that bathroom upstairs, the Jack and Jill bathroom there. It's a
A little dated.
Do you think I should
So I'm gonna
have somebody come in and then revamp that and maybe that'll get us more money?
So what I'd like to do is just take now that I know that we're a team and we're moving forward. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through the house again and just take some more specific notes. Then I'm going to return back to the data and do a little bit more thorough analysis to make sure that I make the appropriate recommendations. Every recommendation is going to be case by case. What if I was to guess, what I would say right now is yes, I do think you're probably going to need to replace the carpet. And the kids' playroom probably needs to be repainted.
Okay.
However, and maybe a little tidying up in the landscaping out back and stuff. But otherwise, you're probably going to be okay. I saw it looks like you've kept the home in great shape. Gutters, roof, didn't see any signs of active leaking. The home, it presents itself well. I suspect it'll photograph well. So I'm going to come back to you with a list of recommendations. And if you have a stager, you can tell them the stager will come in and dress things up a little bit.
So that price can change. So the price we just discussed, so that price can change. That's subject to change.
Well, it
based on what
could.
you come back with.
It could.
Okay.
And the reason why I say it could is if we list it today,
This is
that's
the
where we
price.
should be.
Got it.
But
Okay.
if it takes a week for the painter to come out and, let's say we aim to get this home on the market by the end of the month, then we have to just do one more look at the data to make sure that there's no sales that could show us that we could be a little bit more aggressive with the price.
So you're not listing it today on. So you're going to do some research and then you'll let me know when it's ready to list. And
I'm gonna have you to autograph the contract if you'd like.
Sure.
And we'll just put a to be determined for price and start date. If
And
that's
leave that
okay.
open. That's fine. That's fine.
Does that make sense to everybody?
I just want to ask them about.
Yes.
Come on, man.
Zach came in from, what is it, Duffy Realtor. I think he wanted 1%. So you'll match Duffy Realtor?
No, I'm not gonna match 1%. So John, let me ask you a question. Are you gonna be selecting the realtor on who you believe would represent you and protect your interest the most, or the person who's gonna charge you the least?
No, of course, represent me.
Okay,
I
so
don't
you're
know. I
gonna-
don't know the market. I don't know. Sure.
So the thing is that when I said that, I'm implying that that's actually two different people, right? So are you going to be choosing your agent based on the person that has the most impressive track record and the person that you believe can get the job done, or are you going to be hiring the person who offers you or is charging you the least money? Subtly, what that's saying is it's two different people, right? So if you're the one charging the least amount of money, you can't possibly be the person that's going to protect them the most.
You get what you pay.
That's right. Now, most of the time, right. So you could say something like, oftentimes, Hi, for example, she's pretty dressed up today. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you probably did not buy that outfit at Walmart, right?
No.
Right.
I mean, no offense. What's wrong with that?
Right. Could you have bought a red dress at Walmart? Yeah, exactly. Well, why did you choose to buy that one? Why did you choose to go to Bloomingdale's or wherever you bought it?
I believe you get what you pay for, better quality, lasts longer.
Right. So for you, Ty, I'll do 6%.
So if they don't bring up the question of the commission, and should you initiate that, or like they sign the contract and then ask about the?
10%. No, it's gonna be pre-printed in there. I'm just gonna assume it's 6, 3, and 3, and that's that.
You know, I did notice a net to seller, because that would have the breakdown of the commission.
I'm an accountant, I'm gonna probably bring that up too. I'd probably say, yeah, so can you give me a rundown? Give me a rundown
Yeah.
about, so we said.
So that's if we have some additional questions, right?
Yeah.
Now, ideally, I don't really want to get into the net to seller discussion if I don't know I'm the guy,
Okay,
right? Because I don't want them to think that I don't want them to hire the realtor based on the person who's going to get them the highest sales price.
highest net.
So no, it's a bit of a nuance here.
Yeah.
But if, for example, I come in and I say, hey, the price is 400, and another agent comes in and says the price is 415, I don't want that agent to be chosen simply because they set a higher price. Because some agents will do what's called buying the listing, basically, which is I'll list it wherever the hell you want me to list it so that I can get the listing. So I don't want the consumer, I don't want the seller to feel that they should choose the best partner, then deal with all the details, including price. Not choose the agent based on how much they're going to charge or what price they recommend or something like that. I don't want you to choose me because I gave you a good price.
But your closing costs are fairly standard. Fairly.
We're going to get to that in one second.
Oh, okay.
So the net,
yeah.
so once we determine that we're working together, then we can get to the nitty gritty. So, so we've already signed the paperwork potentially.
Right.
And I say, do you have any further questions? And you say, so by the way, I've said, okay, here's what we're going to do next. Here's what we're going to do next. Here's what we're going to do next. Right. Hang on just 2 seconds for me. Here's what we're going to do next.
Hey, and can I ask John to speak up a little bit since he's
Oh.
not facing the camera? Bill, you're really clear, but I think because he's facing you,
Thank you.
he's not as
Okay.
clear.
Okay, Donna. Is it better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've signed the paperwork, and one of the things that you all like, this should be like ingrained in your soul for all of eternity. Okay, buyers, sellers, whatever. Whenever you're getting off the phone with somebody that you're in a transaction with, you should always be saying to yourself, I need to tell this person what's happening next. So Ebony, here's what's going to happen next. Ebony, here's what's going to happen next. Okay, well, I'll see you Tuesday. Well, here's what's going to happen next. Right? And you ever been on like a trust walk or something? If I were just to like steer you around the obstacles, you would not feel as comfortable if I said, hey, move 2 steps to the right, there's a puddle there. Right? The more information I can give you about what's going on and how I'm protecting you, the better off you're going to feel. The more comfortable you feel, the easier everything is. Make sense? So, so John, let's talk for a second about the net to seller.
Right. I mean, I know we don't have a top line cost yet. We're still kind of figuring that out, but just ballpark, just ballpark how much my closing costs would be.
So closing costs are going to be a function. First of all, it's negotiable, right? So there's really 2 types of closing costs. There's the seller closing cost. The seller's closing costs are largely made up of the commissions.
Okay.
Okay. The other costs that you would need to be prepared for, or any prorations. So it depends on what time of year we close, whether you would need to prepay some of the taxes, or you'd get a credit back for some of the taxes. or prepay some of the annual HOA
My
fees,
HOA, right, okay.
right?
okay,
Or you
right.
get a credit back for the HOA fees.
Okay.
Essentially, every day that you own the home, you will pay for taxes and you'll pay for HOA fees.
Okay.
Okay. And if those bills have already been paid, like let's say we're in January now, so none of those bills have been paid. If we close in April, none of those bills, you probably would have paid your HOA, and then the buyer will end up giving you 3/4 of
I'll
it
get
back.
some of that back, I'll get some of that. Okay.
However, you would not have paid your taxes,
Mhm.
and when the tax bill comes, the new owner is going to pay that full amount. So you're going to end up paying
Oh, so I'll be
let's say
I'll be on the hook for how long
let's
I've
say
owned the home this
a
year.
third of it. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And therefore you'll give a credit to the new owner, to the buyer at closing for that amount.
Okay,
So based on looking at about $3,000, about a third of that, if you close in April, about $1,000 that now, what's interesting is you will have been contributing to that in your escrow, but you won't be able to access your escrow funds to settle up. You'll have to come
I'll
to the
come
table
out
with
of my
that.
own pocket, or
Right,
it'll
now you can use the
it'll be
proceeds.
reduced from my proceeds. Got it, got it.
And then the law is that the escrow will be returned to you within 30 days,
Okay,
whatever balances exist in the escrow.
okay.
Any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, so the other type of close, and then the only other thing that you should probably be aware of as a seller is a little recording fee that just shows that the mortgage has been paid off and that you're no longer the owner, and typically like a transfer
So
or
the
wire
title, like
fee.
a title thing also, or?
No, buyer's going to cover
The
that.
buyer covers that?
So the only other thing you'll probably have to do is pay off like a wire fee, probably $45 or $50, so that we can, or so that the attorney can wire your mortgage funds in.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay,
So that's going to be, pretty small. The other thing is there's buyer's closing costs. Now the buyer's closing costs are all the costs associated with buying the home. So those are things like recording fees and title insurance and lender's title insurance and paying for the attorney to do their work. And there's also all the costs that are associated of getting the loan.
okay.
So those would be like your underwriting fees and your application fees and these kind of things, right? So remember, those are buyer closing costs. So as a seller, you don't necessarily have to pay those.
Would you bring that up in the listing presentation?
Well, if you ask me about net to seller,
Well, I don't really care about me. I care
I have a
about
question.
I care about me.
one
I'm
second,
sorry.
one second.
Wait.
So
Yeah, I'm just,
Well-
I'm more concerned about what's out of my pocket.
sure. So
Personally.
I do want to let you know that approximately 2/3 of sellers, even in this environment, are asked to pay and agree to pay some form of
Oh,
contribution
so that's
towards the buyer
possible.
closing.
So that's possible in the offer. There might be some
Absolutely.
sort of a concession that I might need to make.
That you will be asked to make,
Okay.
and whether you quote need to make it or not is an analysis that we'll do together
You'll
at that
make,
time.
or you'll help me make that decision.
Of course, because for example, if the price is 300 and they ask for 5,000 in closing costs, it's essentially the same thing to you as getting a price of 295.
295.
Right. So as long as the
Yeah.
top number is big enough and we don't push the price too high for appraisal concerns, then you potentially shouldn't balk at a request to pay some closing costs.
Okay.
Now, if you are, selling an $800,000 home, generally the request for closing costs are a little lower, or if they exist at all. But if you're in a price range that you tend to find first-time home buyers or FHA loans and these kind of things, generally speaking, the buyer is, they're rolling quarters to get to the closing table as it is,
Okay.
right? Down payment, these kind of
So they're
things.
gonna see every
so
kind of
they may-
dollar, maybe every
So
dollar.
they may
they
ask
save.
you for that. So I would encourage you, I would probably factor in about 1%, just to
Okay.
kind of have in the back of your mind. Don't be surprised if they ask for some concessions. in closing costs.
3,000, 3,500, give or take.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it might not come in higher or lower. It may not happen at all. I just don't want you to be shocked
Okay.
if it's requested.
Okay.
Okay, but remember, everything is negotiable. And my job is to make sure that you net the most dollars from this transaction. So just because they ask for it doesn't mean they're gonna get it.
You and me both, Bill.
All right, beautiful. So I remember I'm reminding him about, how I help and what my chief objective is, right, to protect his investment. So we're gonna take a sales price that comes in.
Mhm.
We're going to pay any concessions that you have agreed to pay.
Okay.
So that could be other stuff like if the buyer wants you to pay and you agree to pay a home warranty, or you know, something of that nature, then that would be reduced from your take, right? So
Mhm.
let's say it's $300,000. We're gonna have, it's gonna be 6% will be the cost to sell. That's for to pay for the agents, right?
Mhm,
Half
mhm.
of that goes to me to represent you. The other half would go to the buyer. Sorry, I'm blocking my face. The other half would go to the agent that represents the buyer.
So is that how it usually 50/50?
Yep,
Okay.
generally, usually 50/50.
Okay.
Um, so in our scenario, that would be, what would that be? $18,000. So now we're at 282. Okay, let's say you
Okay.
agree to pay $2,000 in closing costs. So now we're at 280. Let's say you've agreed to pay $1,000 in miscellaneous concessions. Maybe it's a home warranty or something like that. So
Okay.
maybe now we're at 279. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to pay off any debts on the home.
Right.
So John,
Right.
do you have a mortgage on this
I do,
property?
I do.
Meanwhile, I know the answer to that because I've done the research.
Look it up, okay. Got it.
And your mortgage
Listen.
amount is, say it's
Yeah,
200.
yeah, it'll be 200 left.
Okay, so we're gonna reduce your amount by 200. By the way, the attorneys will take
And
care
this
of
is all in the closing this is all hand, so I won't have to go back to my lender and settle that, like, this is all handled, so
It's
that,
all
so that
handled at the
200,000
closing table.
will be paid out of my
All the-
proceeds.
exactly.
Okay,
So you'll see on the closing statement at closing all the credits to you and all the debits to you.
okay.
And it's probably a good thing. We should probably, will somebody remind me that needs to go on the calendar? A discussion about the closing paperwork. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna pay off a $200,000 loan. Do you have any other loans on the property?
No, not at all, no.
Okay,
Very
perfect.
well, no home equity.
No home equity, no a friend of yours, you know, did something, or you've got a material, you know, I'm not gonna
No, there's no liens
interrogate,
on,
like,
no
interrogate
liens on the property.
any other liens on the property, any other debt on the property.
Yeah.
Okay, so that leaves us with roughly $79,000. Okay, according to our estimates.
Okay,
How do you feel about that?
feel good about that,
Great.
sure. Yeah,
Great.
yeah, we bought the house for much less than that, I've built up that kind of equity, yeah, it'd be nice to take that money out, yeah.
Okay.
Be
And,
happy.
and by the way, you know, I didn't get a chance to ask you this earlier, but do you have a relationship with an agent in Houston? Have you been looking at homes, or do you have
No, I
somebody
don't
to answer your
actually, no, it's
question?
just all been a blur, the company's gonna provide housing for the next few months, like in a long-term hotel situation, but no, I'll be looking maybe May or June, sure.
Okay, perfect. And you'll probably be heading out there periodically between now and then
Oh,
anyway, right?
absolutely, and check on the facilities, definitely.
All right, so maybe I'll, if it's okay, I'd like to connect you with a high-powered agent in the Houston area.
Sure.
Where are you gonna be looking, like Clear Lake or something like that?
Most
Say
likely, yes.
Okay. Um,
Maybe more Katy or Spring, Texas, but that's okay.
well, I don't know where.
Oh, I know,
Those
I'm,
places
I'm
Okay, so, yeah, I'm reining them back in. I know you still have a question. Okay, so I want to find out where you're looking, right? Where you want to be, and I'm going to connect you with a great agent there. Would that be okay? Maybe you guys can have
Yeah.
coffee on one of your trips, and you can start to, now that we know approximately what you might take from this sale, and what you're, as you learn the market there, you can know how much you might be able to put down, and you know how all that might be.
Yes, I would definitely love to, yeah.
All right,
I'd love to get an agent with know-how in that area to kind of, much like you, kind of knows the market.
So
That'd be
that's
a
you can
big
find.
help. Yeah,
All right, beautiful.
definitely.
Okay, let's get started, sir.
I'm ready.
Make sense?
Do
That
you
was
have
not
to
fair.
let him know that you're getting a referral fee?
Form, I think, has got to sign.
Well, the prospect doesn't have to sign. That form, the broker to broker referral form, is just signed by the brokers.
Will that ever come up in conversation?
Never
Will I
happened.
ever say to you, oh, by the way, what are you getting out of this?
So
Would you ever, I don't know.
no one has ever asked me that in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times.
I would never.
However,
I mean,
if they
it's a
say,
shame.
do
It's a
you
shame.
get anything out of it? I said, yeah, I do. And here's the thing though, John, what I don't want to happen is you go find a random agent in Houston, because if you go find a random agent in Atlanta, they're not going to be that good. So I'm just guessing that you can find a random agent in Houston, they're also not going to be that good. So what I'd love to do is make sure you get in front of as many people as you want, so that you can interview them and find the perfect match. If you don't like them, I'll find you somebody different. Okay. If they're like, well, how much money are you gonna get out of that?
For me,
Say,
it would never
you
be
know,
an
I would
issue.
typically get about 25% of that money of the commission earned.
I would never accept it.
Well, if it comes up, don't, you know, we're not trying to hide anything. I don't know if I would like go out of my way to say it, but I certainly wouldn't try to hide anything. And I may even say something like, all right, well, you know, once all this is done, we'll have a nice steak dinner on me. You know, not usually, like, once they laugh, they stop asking you questions. Yeah. Was that helpful?
Yes.
Yes.
Like, once everything is done and you're happy, do you get keys? Do you bring the lockbox with you? Do you like bring?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I have never had a listing where everything happened like that right then and there. Because more often than not, I've got like an hour in my schedule, and when the hour hits, I'm out the door and I'm off to something else. So I might say to you, hey, I'm gonna have my team, which in some situations is me, you know, reach out to you for next steps. And what I'd like to do is I'll get you the carpet company to come over and price that out. I've got a painter. If you don't have a relationship with a painter, I'll make sure to introduce that. So we'll get that figured out. We'll see how long all this is going to take. In the meantime, you'll be, you know, cleaning up the, you know, the couple things we talked about. I'll continue to watch the market, and if there's something else that pops up that we need to discuss. What was the exact phrase you asked?
Once everything is said and done, do you get?
Oh, keys and all that. So, you know, make sure that you, in order for me to really get started, I would bring over a lockbox. So if you could make me an extra key, that would be fantastic.
Okay.
And we'll bring over the sign. We'll start the process. Okay.
So your next steps really aren't standard next steps. You're sort
Yeah, I
of,
mean, the
you're sort of
vast
working the client, you know, clients, see where conversation goes. If my house didn't need anything, then it's not an issue. If my house did, so
Yeah,
it's
now,
really not a
I
standard.
don't, I'm not positive Melba would agree with me on this, and that's okay. I think, please forgive me. Okay, but I want it signed. Okay, let's sign that we're gonna work together on a certain date at a certain price. Even if we haven't figured that out yet, I want it signed, because what happens if I'm like, okay, well,
No. I'm sorry. I'm talking about like once I sign, I'm with you. I've signed with you before you leave my home that night. What are my next steps?
so I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna wrap up the research that I talked about. I'm gonna introduce you to the vendors that are gonna help us prep the home for sale.
Okay.
And I'll be in touch within a day or so.
And that's usually the standard response.
Right. And meanwhile, I'm going to reach out to Kern and get the legal description. I'm going to go ahead and fill out the listing, or I'll attach that to what I got signed. Don't be like, oh, well, I got to do it in DocuSign or something. Just get it signed and upload it into DocuSign later. Okay. Yeah, I won't say this in front of Lee, but pretty much every single compliance rule that we have is because of me. And I don't mean that, okay, I was never the best at paperwork. I just was good
My
outside.
corporate tax too. Just get it signed. No, I'm gonna just get it signed. We'll worry about it later.
Right, because there's something emotionally that happens with a client when you sign stuff. Okay, there's something, it changes everything.
Sure.
Okay. That makes sense?
Bill,
Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say the new GAR forms that we just had a class with Melba this week, you actually have a listing date, a date that you signed the listing agreement, and then you have another date that you can market it. So the new ones have those 2 dates. So it would be perfect in the case that with John here, you could go ahead and take the listing and then put a marketing date starting after he gets his carpet done and the painting and stuff done in it.
Yeah, that's in direct response to FMLS's rules, which basically say that you're supposed to put the home in their marketing system within like 48 hours of the listing agreement being signed. That is a direct response, because with that, there was all kinds of conflicts with coming soons and all this kind of stuff. And what was happening is agents were either not getting it signed to stay compliant with FMLS and risk losing it to somebody different, or they were basically breaking FMLS's standards and of listing it quickly. Now, you got to remember that when you don't get it signed and you let the client out of your site, now they are subject to the world. Okay. They get in their car and they see another real estate agent's billboard. They hear a commercial on TV or the radio about some other agent that'll do it for 1%. And they start questioning whether they are making the right choice.
Shiny object.
Right.
It's,
So to get that thing signed. Plus, we track signatures. And if you just prepared and spent all this time preparing and learning your scripts and practicing and all that, let's celebrate the fact that you got some paperwork signed. Okay. Makes
Hey,
sense?
question on that. So let's say you're meeting with somebody and they're going to be interviewing other agents and they don't want to make their decision, and you're meeting with them before they've met with everyone. So what do you say? Here's what's happening next. What do you say then?
So, well, first of all, I would know because I asked that question if they're interviewing other agents, right?
Sure.
And I might say something to the effect of, I would definitely share my statistics. Okay. Like what I shared with you yesterday, how our market center compares to the market at large.
Mhm.
If you don't have a ton of statistics, Corey, would you do me a favor and share that image with the group?
Yeah.
You don't have to do it right this second, but it's something I shared with everyone a couple weeks ago, and Corey and I just chatted about it yesterday, so I reshared it to her. You could share that with everybody, that'd be awesome.
I'll do it
Not
on
in
the
this chat, but in the announcements page.
right. Yep.
So you want to highlight how you are, your statistics, or you and your team or your market center are more impressive than the average real estate agent. And then I might say, like, for example, if I know they met with somebody before me, then I might say, so tell me a little bit about your the other agents that you've met with. And they'll say, oh, it's Joe from Caldwell Banker, and say, so just out of curiosity, why didn't you hire Joe? Right? So like when a new agent comes in and they say, oh, I'm meeting with, Metro Brokers and Century 21 and Atlanta Communities, I say, so how many of those have you met with so far? And they're like, oh, well, you're the last one. So wait, so you met with Atlanta Communities, but you didn't sign up with them? How come? Is that, I don't know if that's out of line or not, but I think that's a fair question, right? If you fell in love with what you heard, why didn't you join? Right? So there must have been something you didn't hear or didn't see that's causing you doubt. I want to know what that is so I can remind you as many times as necessary.
I don't think it's your fault because, like, realistically, you're only there because they didn't sign with that person. If they did sign with that person, you wouldn't be there.
So yeah, so I don't see any I want them to tell me how to serve them. And I also want them to tell me, even maybe more importantly, how not to serve them. Well, the guy came in, he was 15 minutes late. So I'm going to stress that I do everything on time. Right? Say, hey, the guy came in and sorry. I know that's the second time I've interrupted you. That's not good. Right. Hey, the guy came in, he had his t-shirt on. Next time you see him, better be wearing a coat. I had a situation really early in my career where it wasn't really a situation, but I felt really strange about it. As I was going to show some condos in Sandy Springs, Park Towers, right off of Hammond and the highway. And there's a concierge there. And my guy, his name was Kirk. Kirk was a real good dresser, but I didn't know Kirk was a real good dresser. Okay. So I showed up, I probably looked like Michael. Okay. That's good. That's the point. That's the point, John. Okay. So I look like Michael. I look like a 9.5. Okay. Kurt comes in looking like a 14, 3-piece suit, shiny shoes, man, overcoat. He looked like a stud. And the concierge thought I was the buyer and Kirk was the agent.
Really? Oh, really?
And I was like, ooh, that ain't gonna happen again. Step the game up. Yeah, right. You see what I'm saying?
That's your fashion game.
You're dressed nicer than me, so what? Right.
So
Well,
Bill,
you're
in the chat, in
Yeah,
the,
I'm the seller, so exactly. I didn't have to dress too much for that.
Okay. What other questions we got?
in the chat, what were the 3 goals that you stated at the beginning? They asked you to reminded of the 3 goals you had when you made the appointment with John that day.
Oh, thanks, Mary.
The 3 goals are, we're going to review your motivation to sell, or we're going to review your motivation to sell this house now and agree on a price that will cause it to sell. Number 2, we're going to take a moment and I'll answer any questions that you have. Which
Wait,
is,
say the second one again?
we will take a moment and I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Because I've had I had your packet for a couple of days, so.
Right. I mean,
Right,
look,
right.
look, my packet's, first of all, there was no other packet, most likely. And my packet's colorful and sharp and printed on heavy paper. And there's no reason why you wouldn't want to work with somebody who outperforms the market.
Well, you want to get any questions out of the way pretty early on. Like if I have any, you want to get questions that I
And we'll
have.
decide tonight whether you would like to work with me, and I'll decide whether I want to take your listing. Okay, fair enough. So what we've done is we jumped from, one is a question that there was virtually no commitment. It would be natural for somebody to ask, right? We're going to review your motivation to sell. Okay, no big deal. Number 2, we're jumping right in. We'll take a moment and answer any questions you have before we get started. What I'm not saying is before we commit to each other.
Right.
Right. That's pretty assertive and it's very assumptive. Okay. Now, guys, we're salespeople. We're supposed to be
assumptive.
Right. Right. So I know we try to dress it up saying we're consultants and we're advisors and all that crap. We are salespeople. Okay. And all the things that we do, salespeople do, does not mean you take advantage of people or you mislead them or you're not a person of integrity. It just simply means that you are trained to help somebody get what they want.
I told you there was that lady with the buy and the rents, and one thing I said is, when we get to the closing table, I want to make sure that you have made the most informed decision and you're very happy with what you decided.
Right. Now, there's a page in the presentation that you find on command. It looks like this. I know you can't see this. I don't know why I'm trying. It says a promise. Okay. This is something that you'd probably put into the pre-listing package. I really like the way this reads though. Serve the community as a leader in the real estate industry and as a friend and neighbor. Always do the right thing, even if it's not what's easiest. To take care of your needs at the highest level through unparalleled professionalism and attention to detail. No request is too small. To serve as a trusted local expert, an advisor by your side, to consistently and clearly communicate with you in the manner and frequency that you prefer, to treat you and your family with straightforwardness, integrity, and respect at all times, to answer any of your questions, ease your concerns, and reduce your stress, and expertly handle the entire real estate transaction from listing to closing and beyond, and to hold myself accountable to selling your home for top dollar, because after all, that's what my business is built on. Does that sound like a, sorry? It looks like this. It just says a promise.
Yeah, it's a page within the template.
Right. So when they see that, I mean, who is not going to work with somebody that speaks that way? You see what I'm saying? So get clues from your prospects or your soon-to-be clients about how to treat them or how they want to be treated. So you're saying like, hey, what would make this a perfect experience for you or a 10+ experience for you? And they say communication and be on time and blah, blah, blah. You better cross-reference every single thing that came out of their mouth. Because if you're not going to listen or pay attention or record it or remember it, you may as well not even bother asking. Okay. And it's the kind of thing where if you, how do I want to say this? This is the way that you find out how to serve somebody. The vast majority of real estate agents are trained completely the opposite way, which is, hey, so John, I sell the most homes in the neighborhood. Keller Williams is awesome. You know, here's 17 pages on why I'm great. You want to work with me? And they're like, you didn't ask me a damn thing about me. See what I'm saying? That's why it's not really a presentation. It is a needs analysis. It's I'm here for a reason. I need to know how to serve you. Makes sense?
Yeah.
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 Does that make sense? They're not looking for another friend. You're not getting hired because they need a friend. You're getting hired because you're going to do the job. Right? Doesn't mean you can't be friendly, but the primary goal is to get the home sold. Okay. Was this helpful? Did you hear a couple good lines?
Yes.
Bill, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So the questions that followed the goals, I was imagining asking the people I'm meeting with tomorrow, and I was imagining them getting offended because they seem a little brash. So, do you really want to sell this house? Because I had a conversation with.
I tell you, this script, that's a good question, Corey.
Well, yeah, yeah.
This script was written for a bit of a different market, but you can get the same information asking it slightly different way. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So rather than saying, do you really want to sell your home? You could say, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is I have no motivation at all, and 10 is I have got to sell this home no matter what. What would be your level of motivation?
Okay, that's better.
Right.
Thank you.
Are you?
That's a great question, because I have a brother who's he's stereotypical New Yorker. He's very, yeah, he would take offense to that. What are you here for, Bill? Of course, yeah.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up. There's also a question.
I hope not.
There's also a question: are you willing to price your home to sell, or do you want it to sit on the market? Right. That was also written at a time where the market was a little bit more favored on the other side. And the way that Diana Kokoska would say it is, so John, are you willing to price your home to sell, or would you prefer that it sit on the market day after day after day after day after day, right? And they're like, okay, got it, right? So I'm glad you brought that up. It's look,
I like the range. I like the range personally. I don't know.
I also like the question. I love the how would you rank yourself on blah blah blah. Yeah, it's like so on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being your home is completely unappealing at all, and 10 is your home is perfect and everything. There's not a single thing that could be done to make it better.
Yep.
What would be the rank that you give your home? Oh, it's an 8. Okay, great. So it's an 8. So tell me, what do you think would have to happen for it to become a 10? Oh, well, the driveway would have to be flatter and the backyard would have to be bigger and all the wallpaper would have to come down and I have to replace all the knobs and I really need to replace the hardwoods because they got a bunch of scratches on it. Interesting. Okay.
Again, it's so, but is it always what would, or would you ever say like how did you arrive at that? How did you arrive at 8, or it was always what would make it more, or would it's your personal preference, or like I would,
this is gonna sound terrible, but like how did you arrive at that? That doesn't tell me much. Oh, that's just banter.
Well,
let's get to the point. Okay. What's wrong with your house?
Well, why do you think it's an 8?
It's not why do you think it's an 8, because that's accusatory. That's like defend yourself.
How did you decide it's an 8? You wouldn't. I'm just.
If you ask questions that start with why,
okay,
that's generally not a good question.
So you're not concerned with how they arrived at 8. You're concerned with what they feel that their home needs.
The only thing I care about from asking that question is what's wrong. Why is your home not perfect?
Okay,
that's all I care about. Okay, and then I'm going to identify what's wrong with the home, and then I'm going to remember that.
Okay.
One sec. What's that?
What I just said to them, it's a good question, that I want you to protect the buyer to your house, and you're going to walk through it. Can you tell me what buyers might have concerns about, and then we can address those issues? And then they feel like they're like role playing. That's fun.
I like that.
Because you're asking me, of course my house is a 10 or 9, it's great. If you force me to think as a buyer, to think objectively, you might get a bit more of
I hear that.
Out of that.
I'm with you on that. Why not use questions that start with why?
No, what do you use instead of why?
You could use any other word. How, what, when. I mean, you just got to play around with the wording a little bit. But if I say, "Hi, why'd you wear that dress today?" You're like, right, I got a little bit.
But it's implying that you have a problem. And if you're not, you know, you think maybe whatever. Why would you? So why did you wear that? Why did you wear that yellow shirt today?
So why did you pick,
Yeah. Yeah.
why did you choose that color hardwood floor?
Yeah.
Like,
You have to defend
because I
yourself.
liked it.
You feel like you
I
have to
get it.
defend yourself.
I get it.
Yeah.
Right. So, what specifically, even that is a little dicey. But you can use, generally when you use how or what, it's a better question that doesn't come off as, that doesn't put the listener in defensive mode. We've done some classes on language skills, and there's some MAPS group coaching on language skills that is just some phenomenal stuff that you should have in the back in your toolbox. Because guys, it's all about language. If our business is all about communication and all about serving people, then you may as well not wing it with the words you use, because you're used to using those words in your previous, you know, life or whatever job you've had or whatever, you know, your personal stuff. You may as well say, hey, what language should I use in order to be as effective as possible in this arena, right? So you can, you know, things like what specifically, you know, do you like about this home, or what specifically do you not like about this home? I'm just like from a buyer perspective.
Yeah.
Then you get somewhere. Like I used to tell my buyers, hey, if you don't, I'm going to ask you if you want to buy the home every time we go into a home. And I either want you to say, yes, this one's the one, write it up, or I want you to tell me why this one's not the one. So I don't waste your time or my time taking you to a home that's not going to fit. So if we go into a home and you say, hey, it's not the one, I say, help me understand why it's not the one. I'm not accusing you of anything. I just want to learn from this. So is it because the ceiling's not high enough? Is it because the kitchen faces the wrong way? Is it because there's a master on the main? Is it because there's not a master on the main? Like, what is it? Make sense?
Hey, Bill,
Like the most people I've been around in like a year. This is like, I'm like still trying to figure this out. All right, I hope this was helpful, guys. Go to search for MAPS coaching, MAPS, MAPS coaching, and type in language of sales. It's actually language of sales 2.0, and there'll be a you can register for the class. There is a cost to it. No, you can just Google that. It's on MAPS's website. I think I want to say it was like $200 for like 8 sessions once a week for 8 weeks, something like that. But it's a phenomenal resource. I actually have the language of sales. I actually have the curriculums or the handouts in the PC folder because I took the class a couple months ago. It doesn't have all my notes, but it has what the printout basically. It's shared. It's in the PC drive or in the Google Drive. I mean. Okay.
So Bill, follow up.
one more.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, follow up, we had people wanting to do the buyer's presentation next, and
Yeah.
then you were gonna do the closing table at some point also.
Thank you. Thank you. And next Wednesday, don't forget from, what did I say, 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. My coach, Deb Jolly, is going to be coming in and hanging out with you guys. And so if you have anything in particular that you want to learn about from her, we can talk about that. If you want to, I would encourage, no, that's going to be on Zoom. She'll just be in the Zoom room. And you'll get a chance to meet with her. As I said before, the Market Center pays $1,250 for me to talk to her for 2 hours a month. Okay, she's like $10 a minute, y'all. Okay, I'm free. I'm free until you get a closing. All right, she's good. So 10 to 11 next Wednesday. I know if you're an Ignite, man, I've probably pissed Mel off like 3 times today. I would skip Ignite for an hour, okay? I would skip Ignite for an hour and go back and watch that video later. All right?
Hey,
I
Bill,
believe we're starting to record them. I think so. Ask Melba.
Yeah.
Ask Melba. Thank you, guys. This is fun. Yes.
if you're in a presentation and the client asks you to tell you about your experience and you have none, what's a good response?
I would see if I can dig a little bit at that. Yeah, so Mary has a ton of sales experience and Corey has a ton of marketing experience. Yeah, so you can talk about the market center. Don't underestimate the importance of letting somebody know that you have a coach, that you've hired a coach, right? That shows them that you have kind of taken it up a notch, if you will, that you're that much more serious. We had an agent who's quite experienced in our office a couple months ago. And Corey, I kind of alluded to this yesterday with you. She was interviewing to sell a big estate down in Locust Grove. It was like over 200 acres. And the seller said to her during the listing presentation, you know, have you ever sold a place like this before? And she looked him in the eye and said, I have not, sir. However, I will tell you, you will not find a real estate agent that's going to work as hard as me. No matter how hard you look, you will not find one that will work as hard as me. And then stopped talking. And there was an incredibly awkward pause for like 10 seconds. And then he's like, all right, let's do it.
Right.
Right.
Whoever speaks first loses.
That's right. So look, you just, you know, like I once had a guy who like handed me, this is like my second or third listing appointment ever. And the guy handed me a sheet. It was like a spreadsheet. And it's like January, February, March, April. He wanted me to show how many listing appointments have you gone on? How many did you take? What was the listing price? What was the listing price ratio? How many days on the market? And I looked at him and I said, let me tell you something. If you're going to judge, if you're going to pick your agent based on this, I'm not going to be the one. But if you're looking for an agent that's going to treat you with respect, that's going to be responsive, that's going to be highly communicative, it's going to work super hard, it's going to price it properly, right? Then I'm your guy. He didn't hire me, but the home sold exactly what I told him I was going to sell for.
You say something like, you know, you're one of my early clients, and I'm going to be relying
I
on
wouldn't say
you
that.
to refer me to others to build my business. So it's my prerogative to make sure
Look,
that you are.
My business is built on referrals, so I want to make sure that you have an awesome experience.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say you're my first guy.
But
You know, this is a.
but you want to mention referrals. You want to mention that the better I treat you, the more you're going to reach. So it's my prerogative to make sure that all of your needs are met.
Yeah,
Completely.
potentially you could bring up referrals. Yeah, I see how that could be beneficial. You know, when Paul makes these calls, and to be honest, I'm not the hugest fan of that script, but there is one part of the script which I really like, which he says, no, oh, it's a great weather out there today, or something like that, right? And you might say to yourself, what the hell is he bothering asking that for? He's trying to figure out how pleasant this person is. If this person's gonna like start screaming and yelling at him because somebody asked him if he's having a great day, is that really the type of person you want to work with? Right? So like, I don't really want to work with that guy. I wanted that listing bad, but when he came at me with that spreadsheet, I'm like, dude, I don't want to work with you.
That's his first reaction to you, is
right?
A spreadsheet.
Guys, there is enough business out there for all of us. How many listings went on the market yesterday? Probably like 400. How many did you take? Does anyone have a goal to sell more than 400 homes in a year here today? Okay, so there's enough business for all of us.
So remember in one of my coaching sessions, like months ago, when I told you I got asked that question after you told me I was never to ask that question. And then,
Seems like, right?
It's not a lot. What I said was, I'm like, geez, I think I first got involved with real estate when I was like 25, which isn't a lie because that's when I bought my first house. So that's what I was.
We got involved in real estate.
Hey, you know what? You're like, hey, that's it seems like it's been forever. That was creative. I was asked how long I've been in the business. I think I can remember it being one time, and it's actually perfect. It was that guy I was telling you about with the condos in Sandy Springs. Guys, when you're prepared, they don't ask questions like that. And I was prepared because I was scared of being an idiot. I was 25. I was an idiot. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know the things I didn't know. But I tell you, man, there wasn't anyone that knew those comps better than me. I went out in and out of all those homes. I knew it all. Right. So gotta be prepared. Gotta be prepared. All right, this is fun. Buyer's appointment. We'll do something similar for buyers. We're going to talk about a net sheet, or not a net sheet, but the settlement statement in a future session. And I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill and John.